Welcome back to Rock Guitar Confidential with Scott and Ryan. Today, we're going to head into the newsroom and talk about guitar headlines today. Stay tuned.
We are rolling.
Roll it. Isn't that what they say at the beginning of Youth Gone Wild?
It is indeed. Yeah, Michael Wagner left that in. So cool.
So cool.
Yeah,
it's like the Uten, Globen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that was a similar situation with Def Leppard. I think they left that in too. I think that's one of the things that
was a Mutt Lange thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so classic, man. It's so weird.
So classic.
You know what's funny about Youth Gone Wild? I actually watched that music video the other day, and I was thinking, man, I remember when I was like 12. This made so much sense to me.
I remember when I was a youth.
I know,
and
exactly.
I went wild.
But I remember thinking, like, yeah, man, tell me who I'm supposed to be and stuff like that. You know, it's like, and what's funny is that only makes sense to people of our generation.
Yeah, it's funny. I had a student this week who his dad was interested in a performance program being offered by a certain other establishment.
Yep. I think I know exactly which one you're talking about.
Right. And I guess he went over there and they had like 12 kids on stage. Like some of them had only been playing for maybe a matter of months with the more advanced kids. And I guess it was the like different eras of Metallica performance or something. And I mean, apart from all the other aspects that I and my student's dad felt undesirable about that product.
Okay. You're being very generous and very gentle with your words.
Not least of which they were offering guitar lessons. And he said, my son already has a guitar instructor. That's me, everybody.
Yeah.
Right? So we don't need or want your lessons. Can we just do the performance thing? And the answer was no.
Oh, you have to do the all-in sort of thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, they want to rope you into the whole thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. Anyway, so, but I thought to myself... Self, are you there? Is there anybody home, McFly?
Am I really an AI? I don't even know. Yeah.
Yeah, and all the Matrix implications, right?
Yep. Getting meta.
I just thought to myself, I can't imagine when we were growing up, a parent signing their kid up to do something that involved Metallica.
That's true. Other than you stay away from those kids listening to Metallica because they're going to ruin your life.
Right.
Yeah, but Metallica's become like Burger King or something. It's like a name brand everybody knows. You know what I mean? It's thank God in a way because it's one of the few bastions of extremely well-known metal bands that there is. You know what I mean? There's not very many of those. I mean, even rock. There's
doubt.
Like AC/DC, Aerosmith, Van Halen, Metallica, Guns N' Roses.
Well, Metallica.
Ozzy Osbourne. There's like a handful that everybody knows.
Yeah, and 3/4 of original Metallica are still out playing, so you got to give them credit.
Well,
right?
not really. It's only half of original Metallica.
Okay, right. Dave Mustaine.
If you think about it.
Yeah.
Well, dude, he did write like half the stuff on the first two records.
That's true. I mean? Well, and they had a studio guy come in for a lot of those solos on Kill 'Em All.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, how do you make it sound like Kirk then? He must have intentionally done that.
He used the same common pentatonic.
Don't play it too clean. People are going to know.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Hey, you know what? Props to James Hetfield. It was just explained to me that that little arpeggio solo, or really it's kind of more of a key melody in Master of Puppets, that's a James Hetfield part.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, I was always thought that was a Cliff Burton part. I kind of figured that would come from him. He's the most educated member of the band.
Oh, okay. Well, so let me rephrase that. I'm sure Burton composed it.
Yeah.
But I guess James always played it.
Oh, that's cool.
Still, so James, if you're listening, good job, man.
Well, actually, no, I take it back because Kirk knows theory. I mean, he knows what's going on. He's not like he took lessons with Satch and he was a serious student, so he knows what's going on. But I mean, he doesn't care about being great at guitar for at least 30 years.
Since the abomination of the Black Album.
So it's been one of those things where I think, but also the thing that corresponded with is right after the Black Album, everything went grunge. And so who cares if you can play or not? Came right after that. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Sounds like we're launching into the episode already. So
we are. So we should probably welcome people in. Go ahead, Ryan.
So welcome back to Rock Guitar Confidential with Scott
and Ryan. I'm not sure why you're introducing me. I'm introducing you.
I don't know. I thought it was the polite thing to do. So. I thought we'd shake things up.
Yeah, exactly. Just thought we
would shake things up.
I'll do your intro. No.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, all right. It's so today we're going to be talking about guitar headlines today.
Yes, guitar headlines today.
Exactly. The day. This is the day we're talking about it.
Today, right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Just the ones that happened. Well,
only in the last 10 minutes. We're going to talk about those ones, right?
Yes. Well, we're probably not going to release this podcast today.
No,
but
it's not going to happen today. No.
So I won't be mentioning today's actual date.
Nope, because no one cares. We live in a metaverse that's just who knows. We live in neither the future nor the past.
Right.
Yes. We're in someplace in between. So anyway, I got to tell you, Ryan's got some headlines he's going to throw out there, and we're going to discuss them. And I'm not even aware what these are. So
yes, well, we kind of already started talking about a headline that I read this morning, and that was, I guess, there's a YouTuber who Metallica just released that Lux Aeterna thing where they totally stole our imagery and some of the language for our album
from Ex Aegis,
from Ex Aegis, right? The neon imagery. They kind of when Metallica stole our whole thing. I was wondering.
They didn't steal our whole thing. Our music is going to be.
Our music's way better.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say. Yeah.
But I was wondering why that bush out in front of my house was shaking around. Turns out it was Lars in a pair of binoculars.
Okay.
Yeah, he caught me looking at the photos from our photo shoot.
I gotcha. And he's like, dude, we're taking all that.
Yeah, we're taking all that.
That's so funny.
Yeah, well,
I have to say, I heard a lot about Lux Aeterna, and I was like going, well, I mean, I'll check it out, Metallica, sure. Every once, it's like a weird Haley's Comet scenario. There'll be like once in a while a great Metallica song drops, you know what I mean? And I listened to it. I thought it was good.
Hammett's Comet.
I thought Hammett's Comet. This one doesn't have wah wah. I didn't even recognize it. No, but I mean, I was fine. I think Metallica has gotten to this weird place now, and I think a lot of the all-time classic bands, like I would say Iron Maiden's in that category, AC/DC's in that category, Guns N' Roses in that category. Whereas even if they put out something good, it's still like lacking. It doesn't have the thing, and it doesn't have that thing that made them what they are. And I think that probably has something to do with these 6-year-old multimillionaires. I think that's probably what the thing is.
Because they're
rich and famous and kind of getting older and having less to be cranky about. You know what I mean? And
I've probably said it before on this podcast. I would love to hang out with Kirk Hammett, have a beer, talk about Universal movie monsters.
Yep.
That would be great.
Mostly a discussion about the latest Mummy movie starring Tom Cruise, right? That's going to be the whole thing. Yeah.
Right, absolutely.
Dracula Untold.
I'm there for it. As everyone knows, I love horror movies. I just think it would be a much more enriching experience talking to Kirk about horror movies.
I think for him too, actually. I think that's honestly what he's more into right now than playing guitar. You know
that's
what I mean?
Not a knock. Yeah. I mean, none of us know how we would react. I mean, at least Kirk didn't go destroy himself with booze and drugs.
Well, he did for a while, and then got figured it out. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, he isn't destroyed.
Yeah, I mean, he was in the process of.
Right, he dipped his toe in the self-destruction pool.
Exactly.
And then decided to come out. Yeah, he pulled out.
Yep. Which, as we all know, is actually so dangerous.
and effective.
Yeah, and effective. It's funny though. Here's one thing I'll say: I'm not trashing Kirk Hammett because he did play great classic solos on great classic albums, and he's played stadiums for 40 years. At some point, you've done it, been there, done that. You probably aren't as interested as you once were in that anymore. You know what I mean? It's not like a hill to climb. He climbed that hill before you and I were even born, or right around the time we were born. So
there's And Justice for All stuff I love.
Oh, I think stuff on Rival. I think all the stuff early is great.
Yeah,
I mean,
the 4 real Metallica albums.
I think he was like, really trying to push himself to compete with all the other great guitar players. Because at that time, we talked about this on this podcast many times, there was like a million great guitar players. Everybody was awesome. So you had to be awesome. You couldn't be taken seriously as a guitar player if you weren't awesome.
Right.
You know what I mean? So he was really pushing himself on those first few records. And I think that it's great stuff. I got nothing bad to say about that at all. But it kind of makes me bummed out. It kind of, we talked about this before, but like George Lynch too. It's just like, he doesn't really care. He just sort of shows up and you can tell he's like, all right, fine. This is what you want. Here you go. That kind of attitude. It's like, it just bums me out. I'd like to see them passionate about what they created and really proud instead of just sort of like, I'd rather be on the beach, in Hawaii and then going to watch my horror movies in my giant state-of-the-art theater in one of my 6 houses.
Once again, horror movies.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Yes. Like that's, you can clearly tell that all of them kind of feel that way.
Dude, how rad would that be to go see the new Evil Dead movie with Kirk Hammett and George Lynch? That would be great.
Well, especially if he brought his bone guitar, it'd be awesome.
Yes, the J-Frog.
Yeah, exactly. So cool. So anyway, let's get into this first Guitar World headline. Okay. Lux Aeterna, by the way, guys, is fine. It's fine. It's perfectly adequate. That's what I would say.
I mean, I kind of listened to like part of it, but
I mean, that's by Yeah, so it's good. Yeah, it's better than Load.
Yeah, I mean, I can't knock the solo because I haven't made it that far into the song to get to the solo.
It sounds like any other Kirk Hammett solo for the last 5 records. That's basically
and and
it's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it.
I could understand too. Like, I know he released a solo album that I should probably check out. Also horror movie themed, so I'd probably love it.
Yeah. But I feel like I would like to hear like a 24-year-old Kirk Hammett solo album, not a 60-year-old.
Yeah, totally. Well, and actually, when I say album, I mean it's like a 4-song EP. I think those songs are pretty long.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. I'd be totally down to check it out. I'm sure it's fine. But yeah, I think there's an argument that when Metallica, when the Abomination of the Black Album happened.
We don't agree on this, Ryan, so it's okay. I like the Black Album, but
when the indisputable betrayal of the Black Album occurred,
all right.
I think it could be argued
this is not a hill I want to die on this particular moment.
I think that the argument could be made that the music itself was limiting for Kirk as well.
I don't agree with that. I think that Kirk just lost his passion for it, man. I just think he's just not into it anymore. I think he's like, I want to be the greatest guitar player ever. That's long gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's what it really comes down to. And I think it comes down to we've just been so successful for so long. Eric Clapton's got this. Jimmy Page has got this. There's like no urgency. How long has Jimmy Page been remastering the Zeppelin catalog and promising to put a new project together for 20 years now? You know what I mean? It's even like the Celebration Day thing that happened in 2007, I think. Mm-hmm. It's a long time ago, man. It's 16 years ago.
Yeah, and who can blame him? Yeah.
I can blame him. Jeff Beck was working his ass off till the day he died.
Oh, right.
You know what I mean? Steve Vai doesn't hold off. He's put out a record every couple of years and then touring like crazy. And
true.
There's a lot of guys who've been really successful for a long time who keep putting out great stuff. You know what I mean? And I don't know. Just to me, there's no excuse, unless you just don't have your passion for it. Then okay, you gotta be honest about it, because I'd rather that than someone pretending to be all in. And they're not all in,
right? Don't be really. If you've given up on your creativity, then just do something else.
Yeah, if you're in the cash cow phase where you're just gonna go out and tour on the hits, and that's, I guess we have to accept that. Then just don't even bother putting out. Do the Twisted Sister thing. Don't even put out anything new. Just keep doing the old stuff. You know what I mean? And
just do the nostalgia thing.
We actually just saw a band recently, Queensryche. They haven't rested on their laurel. They could go out there and tour on those 4 records.
Right. They could just play Mind Crime and Empire and then some select other cuts, Rage for Order. Yeah, totally. They could, but they don't.
But they don't. They've been putting out great stuff for the last 10 years.
So great.
And so to me, I look at that and that's very respectable, but everybody's different. I think we have to kind of recognize that not everyone's got that passion in their heart. Some people only had like a certain, people call it juice. They had a little bit of juice. Like they have enough juice for 1 record or 2 records. Like Guns N' Roses had enough juice for like a 1.5 records.
I'd say 1.2.
Well, you know what I mean? Like they didn't have like even 2 full great records in there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Agreed.
And then there's other bands like, Van Halen, like where every record's fucking awesome. You know what I mean? And Ozzy with the original guitar players with Randy, with Jake, and with Zach, awesome. Well, 2 records worth of juice with each guitar player in Ozzy. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah, totally. So the Zach albums, No Rest for the Wicked,
and No More Tears are great. And then,
so great.
But then same with Jake, same with Randy, 2 records.
I kind of liked Black Rain.
I mean, there's just hit and miss stuff. It reminds me a little bit of Metallica. It's like they have some great stuff, and then after there's like hit and miss stuff that's okay. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's pretty solid, but it's not. There's not a great record there. You know
there's not a great entire album.
There's good stuff on Use Your Illusion Part 2, but it's not like a great album. Does that make sense? There's cool stuff there, but there's not like so Appetite for Destruction's great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's what I mean by that. There's only so much.
With Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. There's a reason that you bring more songs to the table before you release an album, and then only some of them make the cut.
Whittle it down. Yep.
yeah. They very clearly did not whittle it down.
No. They took something I do believe in, which is more is more.
True.
Yep.
Okay.
But I don't know. It's weird. Even Yngwie. Speaking of more is more. Yngwie just keeps. I mean, he keeps cranking out records. I don't love his new records that much, but I mean, he still sounds like an Yngwie record. And he keeps doing like every year he'll put out a new record and go tour. I mean, that's like he's not just sitting on his laurels. You know what I mean?
No doubt, man.
And he doesn't have to.
Chris Impellitteri does not sit on his laurels.
That's true. He sits on a couch.
It's a couch made of metal.
Yeah, he only has laurel leaves, but sometimes. No.
Yeah, but he does his self-titled band. Yeah. He does guest spots on other stuff. Like he did the opening track on the last Alcatraz album to feature Graham Bonnet on vocals.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, is it really an Alcatraz album without Graham Bonnet? I think not.
No, I agree. Just because the keyboardist and the bassist are the same guys, it's
yeah, right. Like, no band should ever be decided based upon who the bass player is.
Yeah, I 1000% agree with that. but I guess the one thing that the little guys that have in common, like Kristen Pelletier, is they're not like ludicrously rich like Kirk Hammett, like where he's got like 30, 40 million chilling in the bank. You know what I mean?
He can't just hang it up.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to still keep working as he needs to, but it's not that he's struggling. It's just he doesn't have that kind of wealth. You know what I mean? And Guns N' Roses, those guys keep touring because Slash keeps getting divorced. I keep thinking that whenever Nikki Sixx gets remarried, I'm like, oh, really?
Yeah. No, I'm sure Yngwie's doing pretty well.
I'm sure he is.
He still owns Ferraris, I'm sure.
I know, but he owns like 1989 Ferraris and stuff like that. So,
True.
he's doing fine, but I mean, he probably owns his stuff outright. So he's not like, he couldn't start over again today.
Yeah, true.
Nikki Sixx got married again. I was thinking, like, what is like wife number 4 or 5? What are you doing, dude?
Yeah, I don't even why even bother getting married if you're Nikki Sixx?
I don't get it. Yeah,
like,
exactly.
What's even the point?
And do you just like losing half your stuff every 3-4 years? I don't understand.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a headline there, I guess, that I hadn't thought about. But Motley Crue and Mick Mars are
oh, that's true. Yeah. That's so lame, dude. What's Motley Crue without Mick Mars?
Nothing.
I mean, that's
nothing at all. He is the seed from which Motley Crue grew.
That's true. I mean, I don't think Mick Mars is a brilliant virtuoso, but he's great at what he does. He's very good.
He had a sound and attitude.
Totally. His solos sound like him. He's got great riffs. I mean, he's awesome. I actually really love Mick Mars. I think he's great.
His solos are well constructed.
Yeah, he can play.
His solos serve the song.
Yeah, and he's a great performer, because he was back in the day. Even now, he's one of the coolest things about seeing Motley Crue live.
Absolutely,
Mick
man.
Mars, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
His vibe is there. I mean, Tommy Lee's very entertaining, obviously. And then,
I think Tommy Lee's actually an underrated drummer.
No, he's a very good drummer.
Yeah.
He's also a teenager who's in a 60-year-old man's body.
More power to him.
And then if you look at Vince Neil, good front man. He's in shape when he's interested in being in shape and being there. And then Nikki Sixx is a good band leader. So can't say anything bad about the band. I mean, I like Motley Crue. They're not my favorite band from the 80s by any means, but I mean, Mick Mars, the idea that they could just, hey, we're not going to pay you. You're not really that important to the band. We're just going to give your money to John 5 now. It's like... And
I can't imagine John 5's cool with that. He seems like a great dude.
He does seem like a great dude. I'm sure he doesn't like that, but he's got no say. So it's either I come and tour with this band and it's going to help me, or I don't and just keep putting out solo records and doing small tours of my own, which I'm sure he'd be fine with too. I mean, I'm sure he loves Motley Crue too. He probably wants to play those tunes and play stadiums and stuff. I mean, that's what he wants to do.
I mean, Motley Crue must be earning enough on royalties. Who knows how they spent it all, but they should be able to leave Mick Mars in as a cut. They could probably hire John 5 just for the tour.
Kind of a Glenn Tipton sort of thing with Jesus Priest, where he's still in the band, but he's not able to perform, that kind of thing. Yeah, I agree.
That's cool that they took care of Tipton with all that.
But I mean, I look at that and I think Motley's doing fine. I mean, they've got all kinds of licensing deals. They're not probably making tons of money off the records, like streaming and stuff. I mean, there's streaming a lot, but that doesn't add up to much. They're probably selling some physical still. I mean, I'm sure they make a decent amount of money, but
some merch.
When you got 3 ex-wives, you got to pay alimony to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to keep on, bring that money train in, because you're so far behind expense wise. You know what I mean?
Give it to Gene Simmons. He held out until he had a reality show.
That's true. Well, I mean, you can give a lot of things to Gene Simmons. And honestly, those guys tour. I mean, they've been touring forever. And
he does it with 50 pounds of gear, maybe 100 pounds of gear on him.
73 years old.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty impressive. You know what I mean? That he's able to do that. And as much as I'm not a huge Kiss fan, my favorite era of Kiss, I'm such a contrarian, man. My favorite era of Kiss is the 80s era. I like the Bruce Kulick
love
era.
80s era Kiss, man. I've been on sort of a Mark St. John kick. Animalize. There's some great
Asylum,
stuff on
Animalize. What's the one? Crazy Nights. There's some great stuff in that. I think why I like that better is because the guitar playing got more modern in that era. They were actually doing real sound like an 80s guitar player instead of sounding like some dude from the 70s, which I don't hate Ace Frehley's playing, but it's one of those things that he's very much a Joe Perry kind of 70s guitar player, which is cool. I just wasn't interested in that when I was a kid. I wanted to hear a guy who was more ripping than that. You know what I mean?
Totally understandable. When Ace was at his best, Shock Me Ace. That's good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I like Ace Frehley's playing. He's cool, but it's a different thing. And when I was a teenager, I wasn't interested in hearing a 70s guy. I wanted to hear someone who started from Van Halen and went forward, which is why with Bruce Kulick, I was I heard the No 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 solo. I'm like, oh yeah, That's really cool. That guy can play. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Bruce Kulick really influenced the way I approach pinch harmonics.
Yeah, he's a great player. I love his solo in Reason to Live. That's actually a really cool solo.
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, also, we talk about Steve Ferris doing the solo to
on Creatures of the Night, yeah.
And we talk about, of course, Mark St. John, Vinnie Vincent, who's another guy that we both like.
Vinnie Vincent, great songwriter. I know he's got personality defects, but if you just judge him on songwriting ability, man, his melodic sense is really good.
So driving the train back to Mick Mars, though, I keep feeling like it's kind of ludicrous after that many years together to pretend like the guy wasn't that important. And it's also lacking massive self-awareness on the part of the rest of the band. Like, what, you think you guys are more important than Mick? I mean, like, did you write those songs?
Well, and how do I put this? Mick's medical condition is a matter of public record.
Yeah.
So
you look like such a scumbag, basically. Here's my brother of 40-something years. I'm going to cut you to the curb because you can't hack it anymore. We're going to take your cut, too. It's like the most soulless shit I've ever heard of in my life.
Yeah, you know absolutely, man. Like, what percentage of Motley Crue's core audience these days are suburban moms?
Yeah, well, are people who are older, too. People who are like in their 50s, 60s who grew up with Motley Crue.
Right, they're adults.
Yeah, and long adults. And then maybe there's like a next generation who they brought their kids in with them or something like that. But then they want to see Motley Crue. They want to see like Motley Crue with John Five. You know what I mean? Nothing against John Five. John Five's a brilliant guitar player.
Well, it's just, how can the other guys just not
give a crap,
look terrible to their audience by picking on Mick?
Yeah, it's true.
Just from that perspective, it's just lame.
It's funny too, actually. So let's talk about, I'll throw another headline at you. I saw an interview with George Lynch recently, where he was talking about how he doesn't try and impress guitar players anymore. That's not something he's interested in doing. And I was like going, yeah, I can tell in the way that you're approaching your playing. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. It's not like you're trying to suck or something, but he's not like going for it anymore. He's very much got this sort of, I'm going to play this kind of interesting, weird little thing to make the song better. There's a great new song. There's a new Sweet and Lynch record coming out.
Oh, neat.
Have you heard of that before?
I've heard of Sweet and Lynch, yeah.
So, and I heard the new single Miracle that kicks ass, dude. It's great. And Lynch is like really playing on it and stuff. And I keep thinking like, and I saw an interview with Michael Sweet recently where he's saying like, I'm trying to pull this out of George. I mean, people want to hear you like rip, dude. They don't want to hear you like playing these cool little blues with a clean tone kind of thing. They want to hear you sound like George Lynch.
Dude, and Michael Sweet's an accomplished guitar player, Great guitar player.
Fantastic singer, too. I'm a huge fan of Stryper. Like,
total double threat. Yeah. Oh, I grew up listening to Stryper. Love it.
But anyway, I look at that and I think, yeah, that's so obvious. I wonder why George doesn't get that. Like, people want to hear him sound like George Lynch. You know what I mean? It's like if, I'm sure he would agree with this. If Clapton showed up, he'd want to hear him sound like Clapton. He want to hear him play an acoustic guitar version of a lullaby. You know what I mean? He wants to hear him like plug into a Marshall with a Strat and then go to town. Or Les Paul, depending on which era of Clapton you're into. You know what I mean? What do you think about that? Is that are you cool with the idea that I'm not going to try and impress guitar players if you're George Lynch?
Well, I mean, I think that the only guitar player you need to impress is yourself.
That's true. I agree with that 100%. But he's sort of like gotten pretty far afield from where he was, like the direction he was going for a lot of years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I just think there's a lot of factors that come into play, right? So how much? So if you're doing Sweet and Lynch, you're not doing it because you need money.
No, of course not.
Right.
It's not going to sell.
It's not the same thing as Motley Crue
or Doc
promising they're not going to ever tour again and signing the contract in blood, and then coming back with
so lame.
So assuming that the project is for the purpose of artistic expression and integrity, then you need to be honest with yourself about what you are doing, right? So,
I get the feeling with George Lynch, and I've opened a show for him. I did one show with him. I never really talked to him at that show. We always kind of sound checked and kind of no one hung out with each other. But the impression I get from watching what he's done over the last several years is I feel like he kind of has always been sort of wandering to figure out where he wanted to go as an artist. I feel like in the 80s, he felt like, okay, well, this is the cool thing. I'm going to try and be the Guitar Hero guy. I'm going to really go down on my technique and really rip. And then everyone's like, wow, this guy's great. He has a really unique feel, really cool vibe.
His vibrato and
this whole attack and everything he does is very cool.
Attitude.
A total attitude. And that set him apart. And he had the chops too, so he had the attitude and the chops, and his tone was unbelievable too back in those days too.
He was a real dream warrior.
Yeah, like he was a dream warrior for sure.
I'd really like to see George come back for the attack, you know?
And go tooth and nail.
Yeah, if he just clawed tooth and nail, straight to the top. He'd go straight to the top.
If he could only unchain the night.
Right.
There'd be no stopping him.
But I would just say, George...
Till the sunrise.
Yeah, I'd say, George, just don't lie to me. If you don't want to rip, then maybe this isn't the right project.
Scene. All right, so I keep feeling though like I don't want him to be inauthentic, but I also want him to sound like George Lynch. You know what I mean? That's
right, but I don't want him to feel like a prisoner.
No, I agree. He's a prisoner. He's chained by love, man.
Yeah,
it's true. Well, he just has to take it night by night.
You beat me to that. You beat me to that. You beat me to that.
I feel weird about that because like I want to love his stuff, but when he puts out something where it's like it's this weird sort of like groove that doesn't really ever go anywhere, and he's got this like weird bluesy stuff over the top. It's kind of vibey.
Remember when he did like rap metal?
Yeah, I don't want to remember that.
Yeah,
but if I'm not mistaken, my solo band opened for him back in those days when he was doing the rap metal thing way back. Because I was like, "Oh, George Lynch, this is gonna be great," and then it's like a rap thing. I'm like, what's happening?
Sidebar: there's a new animated series called Royal Crackers about a family.
I've heard about this. Yeah.
Dude, it's about a family that owns like a saltine cracker business. And one of the sons, apparently he used to play in a band back in the late 90s, a new metal band called Taint.
Oh, God.
Yeah, there's an episode where he does a Central Valley mega tour where he plays one open mic night in Bakersfield and then an open mic night in Fresno and then back to the same place in Bakersfield. It's hilarious.
That's so funny.
Oh, my God.
But, I mean, how do you feel about that? Like guitar heroes you grew up watching. I mean, it could be anybody. I mean, anybody we think of. And when they sort of don't have their soul in that, Kirk Hammett, I put in that category, doesn't really have his heart in it anymore.
Nope.
You know, I would say
not Lynch, since the Black Album.
Lynch
the solos on the Black Album are not good.
I can go down a line of people though who like don't have their heart in it anymore. You know what I mean? One guy who doesn't is Reb Beach. That guy's a guy who absolutely still throws down.
Totally throws down.
Vi throws down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a bunch.
Doug Aldrich still throws down.
Yeah, exactly. Even Vivian Campbell still throws down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, I guess everyone's different. What's your thoughts on that, though? And then we'll get to that. I want to get to the headlines.
I can't think of too many. Maybe it's just because I'm only focused on the guitar players that are still in the process of throwing down.
Yeah. They're not focusing on the ones that aren't.
Not
But I
really.
think Lynch, the world's a better place when George Lynch is putting out kick-ass guitar music.
Absolutely,
You know what I mean? And
dude, no doubt.
I just look at that and I think like, man, you really should just figure out what you want to do, man. You're clearly not knowing what you want to do.
He just needs to listen for the cry of the gypsy. And, you know, he'll be all right.
He'll keep playing guitar till the living end.
Yes,
for sure. All right, let's get into the guitar world thing that was the impetus of this entire podcast that we've been now dancing around for a long time now. So
totally. But hey, we discussed some headlines. There's some drama with Motley Crue and Mick.
Two more headlines I want to talk about.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to the Rock Guitar Confidential podcast with Ryan and Scott. Please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. Now back to the headlines in the guitar world.
So to all of those listening out there, Scott has not heard me read these headlines yet.
Okay,
but they're both pertinent to discussions we've had in previous podcasts. So
very cool.
It was very timely that they came across my internet feed.
Your news desk.
Across my news desk.
In your newsroom. Yeah, exactly. Right now, Ryan's in a room covered with TV monitors. Getting feeds from all across the world. all rock and metal headlines.
Okay, so here's one from Guitar Player Magazine.
Yep. Which is a guitar magazine. It's a thing made of paper.
Twas. Now apparently it's an online thing.
Oh, okay. That was a paper thing at one point.
Now I just need to... Okay, here we go. So it's quote, Les Pauls, Tellys, and Strats restricted me, unquote. Joe Satriani explains his devotion to Ibanez guitars.
All right. Well, he's a good man.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no doubt that's true. I mean, there's so many, there's great things about, Les Paul, Strats, and Tellys. And there's obviously horrible things that needed to be fixed. And then when the Super Strat came into being, those things got fixed. And we built the better mousetrap. It seems like, I don't know why we go back to, it's almost like we had cars that have, they have brakes and they have, lights and air conditioning and stuff. It's like, you know what? Just for the hell of it, let's lose the brakes.
Hey, I'll be over there for the session. I just got to crank up my Model T.
Exactly right. I just don't understand why we're going back to that stuff. Other than it's some kind of affectation that people have because for whatever reason that they perceive some value in, like, I want a Gretsch with a Bigsby.
Ding,
you know
ding,
what
ding.
I mean? Yeah, I don't get it at all.
Yep. It's just an affectation with stuff that doesn't work as well.
Yeah, exactly. Let's take a tool that's not as well designed or performs as well, and it's harder to use. In every way, it's worse. You know what I mean?
I've been chiseling new wheels for my car out of stone.
I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it either.
I mean, it seems like if someone gives you like a solution to the problem, it's almost like, this indoor plumbing thing is a fad. I need to go build an outhouse out, 20, 30 yards from my house. That's better. I want to go do that.
Yep.
Doesn't make sense at all. Cool. Well, I mean, I
so it's really interesting. He says here in the article, quote, I wanted to play a certain way, but my knuckles would hit the horn on ES335s, Telecasters, and Les Pauls would dig into the underside of my forearm and things like that, unquote.
Yep, it's true. Also, there's no access to the upper frets on Les Pauls or ES335s, or very little, you know what I mean? And no tremolo that's really functional in either of those guitars. Yeah.
Oh, and here's one other quote that I thought would be totally pertinent to things that we've been talking about. Frankly, it kind of blew my mind that this just popped up.
Oh, nice.
My iPad isn't connected to our creation of the podcast, or unless somehow Yahoo or Google's been listening to us through my iPad.
That sounds like an impossibility.
You never.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine that something like that could happen.
Well, dude, Lars Ulrich was hiding in my bushes with binoculars.
True.
I mean,
that's what he does. I've heard about that.
Right. I know. Yeah. So, quote, all of a sudden, the Floyd Rose comes into being, unquote, he recalls. Quote, it had to be invented because somebody had to solve the tuning issue and make a better vibrato bar, unquote.
Oh, talk about a mic drop right there. Oh, my God. That's just exactly right. Like,
Plunk.
Yep, Floyd Rose is the best tremolo system there is. If you like to, use your bar, bend, and stay in tune, if you don't care about those things, then I guess it doesn't matter. But, staying in tune kind of matters to me a little bit. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with playing with a stop tail if you are playing certain things.
But then at least have the decency to put some kind of like graphite nut and put locking tuners on your guitar.
Oh, definitely.
Because I really don't. I tell my students this all the time. Like, I won't own a guitar that doesn't have a locking system. Like, I don't have time for that nonsense. You know what I mean?
I have one, the Brian Moore C55.
That's locking tuners, though, right?
It does have locking tuners.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like a locking
low friction nut.
So you need to have one of those two. You have to have a Floyd Rose, or you have to have something with like a either graphite or roller nut or whatever kind of low friction Teflon and locking tuners. One of those two things has to happen, and your bridge should be 2-post. That way it actually floats and does what it's supposed to do.
Also less friction. If it's 6 posts, that's 6 posts of friction.
That's what I mean. You can actually have way more control of that. And then the Floyd Rose just solves all those problems.
That sounds kind of like the title of like a John Petrucci solo album, 6 posts of friction.
I prefer 2 posts of friction myself. No, I think I just think it's true, and that's just obvious stuff. And I don't, when you talk to people who are anti Floyd Rose, trams, I don't get it. I mean, I guess if you're an alternate tuning guy, strumming, jangly Rickenbacker guy, I could see that you wouldn't have a use for that guitar because that's not what you do. But if you're actually playing a guitar to its full potential, you need to have something like that. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense to not have that. And it's also the vibrato bar I use all the time in all kinds of different ways. What I mean?
It's not all just about dive bombing.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
And I use it for expression on leads and rhythm guitar stuff too. So it's one of those things I look at that and I think, why would I have one arm tab? I want all my tools available to me.
Yeah, and not even just for shredding, right? Like get a nice fat clean tone with your neck pickup and actually bend up into like a 9-chord or something.
Or just use it for vibrato on chords that are ringing, like arpeggiated chords.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just look at that and I think there's so many things you can do with that guitar, that kind of tram that are so much cooler. I don't know. I can make a guitar work if it's a stop tail piece, but it kind of pisses me off. There's like another thing I can't do. There's a bunch of things that are now off the table that I can't do, which sucks. You know what I mean?
I will say that with a floating tram, I like like what it does to the tension. It makes the guitar feel just a tiny bit slinkier.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
I mean, I've always used floating trams. That's just, to me, that's, it all comes down to knowing what to do with that tool. People who don't like floating trims are people, in my experience, who don't understand how to use floating trims.
Yep.
You know, that doesn't make sense. Like, I don't understand why my Lamborghini can't do the, Baja 500. It's like, wrong tool for that job, buddy. You know, it's like, that's like, oh, I was got my Floyd Rose and I tried to put it into an open dadgad tuning. I'm like, well, that's not what this does. Well, if it can do that, but you got to leave it there.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's the whole purpose. And I'm actually not a fan of that. That's one place I do part ways with Eddie Van Halen too, is I'm not a fan of the down only trim either, because I use the up so much. I just feel so limited with a wow.
Although I've been so I have that reissue of the 85 Kramer Beretta, the USA reissue, so not built in Indonesia.
That's okay. Even if it were, I still like Kramers. There's an aesthetic there. You know what I mean?
Sure. So that one has the surface mount down only, and my best friend Rich Shepard, who was kind enough to sell it to me.
Nice.
Shout out to Rich. He also gave me the EVHD tuna for it. So
nice.
I'm thinking about installing that, so I'll have a guitar that I can drop D and back.
I have a EVH Bumblebee with a D-tuna and stuff. And I mean, it's cool. I like to be able to use the D-tuna. That's a cool thing, but I do miss not being able to pull up in the bar.
Sure. How do you like the D-tuna?
It's great. It works exactly as designed. It's
pretty
really cool.
Pretty accurate when your strings are
I don't do much
in.
drop D though. So like if I do that, I'm just doing that because I'm playing Unchained or something, or You're in Love by Rad or something like that.
Or for like educational purposes too,
exactly.
right? So I'm thinking more of in like teaching settings.
It works beautifully for what it's designed to do. It does exactly what it's designed to do.
Okay, cool. Because I've always been concerned about, because I need it to be exactly on D or E.
Yeah.
Right.
It's great. It works.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know there's some fine tuning to get it.
Yeah, it's more than good enough for what you need to do, for sure.
Cool.
And it's cool. I mean, Eddie did the down only, and you can do a lot with the down, as obviously as Eddie Van Halen did. But to me, I just would miss having the up.
Sure.
That couldn't be my everyday guitar. What's the other headline? Let's get to that one too.
Oh, okay. So let's see here. So it's kind of cool that Joe Satriani there was.
Yep, everyone.
In. You know what?
Mic has been dropped. We all have to understand that the Floyd Rose is the greatest tremolo that's ever existed.
Yeah, whatever you think of our opinions, there's no doubt that Joe Satriani is an elite guitar player.
You are not going to argue with Satch.
Okay, so moving on. Okay, and it's reload. Now, I thought I read this in Guitar Player. So when I did there's another title on here, Bang Showbiz. I don't know. I just want to make sure that I'm crediting whoever the original, producer of the article is.
Now, Guitar Player magazine is one of the great guitar magazines that's ever existed. Guitar World, Guitar Player, and then, in my opinion, the greatest guitar magazine that ever existed was Guitar for the Practicing Musician.
Yeah.
That unfortunately
GFTPM
is no longer with us. Hasn't been for a long, long time. But those are the three great guitar magazines that ever existed. I think Guitar World has kind of taken the top notch now lately.
So hey there, musicians. If you start practicing more, then there might be Guitar for you.
Yes.
Guitar for you, because you'd be a practicing musician.
You missed it out too. That was an amazing magazine.
It was such a great magazine.
That was the best. Absolutely. So
good. Okay, so here comes the next headline.
All right.
U2's The Edge wants to be the, quote, vanguard of the, quote, resurgence of guitar music.
Well, I'm torn on that one because I actually am a fan of The Edge. I think The Edge does some pretty interesting I would call him a texturalist. He's not really like a player so much as he just textures. And I think he's really creative and really interesting. He's almost an abstract painter on guitar. If that makes sense. And that's his thing. He's got his thing. And I like U2. U2's a good band. That being said, sure. I think honestly, we need all hands on deck. We cannot break into tribes on this one. Like we're gonna get replaced by freaking DJs and
AI
and like synth pads, which DJ Khaled is just a hair above an AI.
DJ. I usually don't associate DJ Khaled with intelligence.
Okay, you know what I'm saying. But like he's not like an AI is just slightly not as good as DJ Khaled yet, but it will be shortly. You know what I mean? And I think like we need people who appreciate people playing instruments. Look at Coachella that's happening, right? Like how many bands are playing Coachella? There's like a handful. Like Blink-182's there. There's like a few like bands like drummers and guitar players. Like pretty soon you have people who are live sound engineers who are not going to understand what amplifiers are. You know,
yeah, that is
you know what
weird.
I mean? So it's at least at like pop mainstream sort of things. And look, as much as I love you two and the Edge, like, dude, you're like 60 years old. You're not going to be the vanguard of anything. You are just you're in the cash cow. You're going to keep playing stadiums and arenas for the rest of your life. Like, remember how cool it was back in like 99? Remember how cool it was when we did that record in like 88? That's where you are in your career. You're not the vanguard of anything. You know
and just for the sake of consistency, we featured the Edge on over and underrated guitar players.
Yeah, that's true. And he and I both I wouldn't say we argued about it, but I'm probably more of a fan of the Edge than you are, I would say.
I planted him in just the overrated category. Yeah. That is all. I don't think I fully slammed him.
I don't think he's a great guitar player per se. I don't think he'd even call himself a great guitar player. I think he just kind of does his cool abstract painty thing, and it works, and it's cool, and it fits the music, and it's great.
He was described to me as after that podcast, he was described to me as being just basically like a folk guitar player.
Yeah, I agree with that. And he's not like a guy who wants to play solos or something like that, which on that level, I can't relate to him at all. Like if Van Halen doesn't make you excited about playing guitar, I'm not sure what to say to you. You know what I mean? It's like, it's weird to me that, I bet, you know, not everyone's got that kind of vibe too. He might be a totally different kind of, I have a bold hypothesis that everybody's different.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that.
So for me, it's like when I heard Van Halen and Steve Vai, I was like, I gotta play guitar. This is awesome. You know?
Right, totally. But not everybody wants to conquer the world with guitar, and
exactly.
I totally can respect.
Or wants
that.
to just be like a guitar ninja. You know what I mean? That's like that's not what they come from. They come from, I just want to be able to like write fun songs with my friends and stuff.
Yeah,
and
which is great.
You could actually argue that that's a smarter move, because if you do that, you're going to probably have much more commercial success doing that. You know what I mean?
Or if commercial success isn't a consideration,
I think it's it's always a consideration. I mean, you want to have people like your music. You want to sell enough music to make a living.
Oh, well, no, I mean, if you're actually doing it professionally. I was thinking more about, you know, like a lot of the students that come to see us, just they're playing for their own enjoyment. And that's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and
that's really great.
I wish it was more guitaristic, but it's not. That's not, that band isn't that. If it would be Aerosmith if it was different. You know what I mean? It'd be like a more of a rock band. I don't really consider U2 a rock band. We're in a weird space now too, where like anybody who has a guitar is considered a rock artist now.
Okay, yeah, that's like, the weird thing.
How is
too.
Her a rock artist, or why is so John Mayer's rock now? I don't get. You know, it's like it doesn't make sense. Like Gary Clark Jr. is a rock artist.
I mean, broadly, I'm okay with the breakdown of genres because there's only 12 notes.
Yeah,
let's just make it all.
I guess
music,
what I mean by that is like there used to be like rock was a something. There was like a thing that you could kind of put. Now just anybody playing guitar is rock. That doesn't make any. That's a little too broad. I think we need to kind of define it more. You know what I mean? And there's got to be an attitude and an aggression to the sound, and there's got to be like a harshness to the guitar tone. It's like a powerfulness to the guitar tone.
Totally,
it can't be like super soft, like silky. That's not what rock is.
Well, and the guitar needs to be almost as front and center as the vocals.
Yep,
and it's sometimes as front and center as the vocals.
I actually find myself saying this to students all the time too. It's like, you know, like they go, "Why are you so into rock and metal?" I'm like, well, because in rock and metal, the guitar is co-equal to the vocals.
Right.
It's like these 8 pop songs I just taught you. What are you doing as a guitar player? You're strumming like 3 chords over and over and over and over again, while the singer does their thing.
Which is fine. I mean, there needs to be somebody in that supporting band for that thing.
No, I agree. But that doesn't make me inspired to be playing guitar.
Right. That doesn't make me want to go pick one up.
Yeah, exactly.
And express myself.
I could strum this GCD for the next hour. Sweet. You know what I mean? While the singer does their thing. In rock and roll, the guitar is just as important as the vocals. You know what I mean? Which is why rock is where my fealty lies. You know what I mean?
Too.
It's because all the classic paradigms were like, you know, guitar hero and lead singer. You know, if you look at everybody going back to the Stones, you have Mick Jagger and Keith Richards. You got, you know, Pete Townsend and Roger Daltrey. You got, you know, David Gilmour and Roger Waters. You've got, you know, Joe Perry and Steven Tyler. You got,
although Brad Whitford's really the dude.
He is by far. I agree with that.
He's the dude.
But he's not the one everyone thinks of. You got Eddie.
He should be
Eddie and Dave. You got Jimmy Page and Robert Plant. You know, you had the paradigm of like the guitar hero and then the singer, that kind of thing. And that's sort of something that, you know, we kind of think of music as being. You know, that's what rock music is. You know, the guitar hero. You know, to keep on down the line, you know, Lynch and Don Dokken. You got, you know, Steve Vai and David Lee Roth. Steve Perry and Neil Schon. Exactly right.
Yeah,
and keep on. I mean, just keep on. You can name any band. You know, you think of.
Jim Dandy Mangrum and Goober Grant.
I don't know if I was going to go that far afield, but you just think of that. You know, any classic paradigm band, there's a great guitar hero and there's a singer, right?
Yep.
And that's inextricably. Even going back to Chuck Berry, even though he was the same guy, the singer and the guitar player.
Yeah, all in. Well, then there's the double threats.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. So I look at that though, and that's kind of what rock is. You know what I mean? And the idea that you're just like relegated, this like you're You're not a bass player, dude.
Yeah, totally.
You
yeah,
should
absolutely.
be as forefront as that. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm not really into the Tool, that band, that much either. So the guitar is kind of, it just melts into the band. It does not anything that's
It's
like,
kind of just reinforcing the bass guitar.
yeah,
the other way
exactly.
around.
The guitar is not like, and there's not like big solos or anything like that. Just I think that band leaves me cold for that.
Every melody goes like this, and this is every Tool vocal melody.
We're gonna play it in 7. And
it's a weird time signature.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, like, I'll talk to people sometimes who aren't musicians, and then we seem to talk past each other. So the things that I love about music and musicianship, they just are completely unaware that it exists. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, well, like, why do you like this band? I don't know, pick XYZ or Winger. Winger's a good example, because Winger is a band that's reviled by people who don't know anything about music.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But people, I've never met someone who's a great musician who doesn't love Winger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, if
Kip Winger is such a good songwriter.
And everybody in that band's awesome at what they do. You know what I mean? And
I feel like with a band like Tool, people think that they're signaling to others that they're somehow deep.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Intellectual.
It's more like it's a scene to be a fan of Tool.
Yeah, it's like they know that you're not going to like it, but if they declare that they like it, it means that they have some deep insight that you could never possibly fathom.
Which is too unusual and strange and special for you to ever understand.
You'll never get it.
Yeah,
man.
exactly. I respect the musicianship because the guys in that band are all good musicians, no doubt. But it's like I just don't get the music.
Well, the people who make the music are oftentimes not at all like the people who are fans of the music.
No, I agree with that totally.
Yep.
I mean, I think the guys in that band are great. I just have never heard a Tool record that made me excited about playing Tool.
Never made me want to pick up a guitar.
Yeah, exactly. So it's one of those things that's just a taste thing. You can't argue taste with people, but at the end of the day, I don't understand I think I've always had this inherent sort of like rejection of image being like the most important thing, which is funny because you and I are both huge fans of 80s metal, which the classic butt slam on them is that it's all image, but that's not really true.
It's not really true.
Yeah, it's really that the songs were great, the playing was great, it was all legit. I mean, most of the great bands really were like really very authentic about what they were doing. It wasn't like they're just trying to make a scene or something like that. Rat is a good example of that. That's not a band that was trying to make the scene. That's a band that was just being authentically who they were.
Well, and I'll posit that all of those bands started, I mean, they grew up on music that had to be good on its own merits.
Yeah.
And like maybe if some of the iconography got a bit long in the tooth, it's because those bands were doing what they had to do to get their music out there, but the music was already solid, right? It still wasn't.
You're talking about like the image of like those bands. Right. Well, because that's what the marketing machine grabbed a hold of. So and they weren't opposed to selling more records, so they're going to still make the same music either way. So I'll put Aquanet in and whatever, and I'll wear whatever this is cool, and that's the thing. And it kind of became like a competition amongst the bands to outdo each other in terms of their image and stuff like that. And MTV was a visual medium, so that kind of became a thing. And but that doesn't mean though that the music wasn't there. You know what I mean? That's
I wonder if social media is going to get that way. Like I really do not want to have to use social media, but I must.
I know.
I must.
You could be old man on the front yard yelling at the clouds, or you got to. You have
Seriously,
to.
all I care about is making music, teaching people guitar and music, and that's all I want to do.
I'm not looking to have a thread conversation with somebody I don't care about.
Yeah, totally. I don't want to comment on this or that or whatever, but
I know.
I'm just about my own teaching practice.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think that's sort of part of the job now, though. It's not like you have an option of opting out of that anymore. And until it changes again, which it will at some point, you have to sort of. It's almost like being a ship on the ocean. You have to roll with the waves. Yep. You can't make the wave come or not come. I don't like this wave. I'm not going to take part. You just do what you got to do.
And hey, just like learning anything else, I feel good about myself when I learn how to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like learning something new musically or working hard to play something technically challenging.
I don't necessarily find social media to be terribly interesting or important. You know what I mean? I don't. That's why I think I kind of some part of me really like reviles the idea of I ever have to post something. It's like, I don't want to do this. It's like part of me hates the other part of me. It's like, I know, but I got to do this. Like, no, you don't. It's like I kind of have that. Who cares? This is not worth anything.
The only websites that count are the ones where you can download and listen to this podcast.
That's true.
Right.
And then share with your friends on your social media. That's what must be done.
Yes.
You guys have been roped into this too. All of us together
That's
have
right.
to do what you want to do, which you have to share this with other people. And
Yep. That was all just a roundabout way to get into some shameless self-promotion.
exactly. Please make
folks.
sure to like and subscribe.
Yes, please.
And rate as well.
And then like and
review.
subscribe.
Like,
again.
subscribe, rate, and review. Okay.
Yes.
But anyway, I don't know. I find that the Edge thing. I mean, I really hope he's right, and I want the person who's going to be the vanguard to be someone who's like 22 right now.
Yeah.
That's the person that needs to be the vanguard. Someone's got to become from that generation. It can't be some old guy from the 80s who's saying, I'm going to be the vanguard. It's got to be somebody who's young now, who's making music that relates to someone their own age.
Someone from the metal world needs to cross over.
Well, I think that's the thing. If metal as a genre wants to become something more than just like a subgenre or afterthought, it's got to have artists that run a spectrum from like extreme all the way to very accessible. You know, I think that's why bands like Hailstorm is a good example of a band that's kind of accessible. You know, I think like Five Finger Death Punch. I think like Avenged Sevenfold. Some of those bands like that, they're kind of more accessible. The problem I have with those bands, with the exception of probably Hailstorms, I think Hailstorms kind of got a classic rock kind of vibe to it. Is they're sort of like there's a little bit of echo of the bro metal late 90s thing going on.
Like Taint?
Yeah, well, it's sort of like a Godsmack Disturbed sort of drowning pool thing happening with the imagery and stuff, and I just don't dig it. Like, I got tattoos everywhere and I'm pierced everywhere. That kind of like,
you know what I want?
Sadix X sort of thing.
I want Ronnie Radke and Jackie Vincent to get back together for one more Falling in Reverse album that is like the first one. Doesn't mean that it shouldn't continue in its current iteration or direction. That's all great. I dig their stuff. Even when they get into more like, you know, rap territory.
Yeah.
I totally dig their creativity. That first Falling in Reverse album, dude, I thought it was coming back.
Yeah.
Jackie Vincent is a killer player. The songs had attitude, and I know you can't do that for. Well, you could do that for every album, but yeah,
AC/DC does the same thing for every album. So
well,
sure.
right. So you know,
it can be done.
so that, you know, that album came out in like the late 2010s, early 2010s. I'm not somewhere.
I remember
between,
first heard it was like probably 2011, 2012.
I want to say 2011. Yeah. So man, it would just be so great if those guys would just do one more album together. Ah, man.
Okay, let's talk about that, because that's Rich, what you just said. Like, it's coming back. And I've heard a lot of people, usually middle-aged people, saying to me something like, "Oh, this is going to bring rock back. This is rock's coming back." Or, you know, look at a YouTube comment post on something like, say, a new Winger single or Striper single, and they go, "Oh yeah, bringing rock back." I don't think that rock ever went anywhere, and I don't think it's coming back. I think it's just sort of, it is what it is. The problem is really that we've moved to a new time where there isn't a single anything. Everything's going in every direction at once. Do you know what I mean? So
I should more clearly define what it is.
I think you have a point. And I felt that way myself too. Like, okay, this is going to bring me back to the mainstream. I don't think there is a mainstream anymore. I think we have to kind of accept that there really isn't a mainstream. There's music that we consider to be like the Taylor Swifts, the Megan Thee Stallions, the Post Malones, that kind of thing. Drake, that kind of thing is kind of mainstream.
I'm looking forward to living in a world that's post Malone.
Exactly. Maybe it's going to circle around and be pre Malone at that point.
What?
But no,
more physics time with Scott and Ryan. Yeah.
Yes. Well, at some points, you know, if the hypothesis of quantum mechanics is true, and the many worlds theory, but no, what I'm trying to say is that we have to accept that it's not like it was back when we were kids. You know, there isn't a one thing anymore.
Sure.
There's a million things all happening at once, and it's really these little fiefdoms of like fan bases that are all kind of separate from each other and they're into like different stuff. And because people can curate their world now, you can have only exposure to what you want to be exposed to now. You're not going to stumble across bands so much, which is why a bunch of old people say there's no new bands that are any good. And I'll go, yeah, here's like, we did 2 podcasts on this.
Yep,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then but then there's also, you know, young people like, I don't want to hear these old bands too. It's because they just, I think that it's going in all directions at once. I don't think there is a back to come from, and I don't think the music ever went anywhere. I think it's just a matter of, you know, like good stuff. Hopefully artists can make enough of a living that they'll keep making that, and don't worry about whether or not you're keeping up with Taylor Swift or something. Taylor Swift's only coming along like once every generation. You know what I mean? Like the Michael Jackson was Taylor Swift before Taylor Swift was Taylor Swift. Sure. You know what I mean? It's like you kind of have one of those, and then like in 25 years there'll be another one. You know, that's the ones that come. You know. What I mean?
Agreed. And you know what's great about the guitar? One of the things that Edge. Yeah. Sorry, I don't want to get his name wrong.
Is his name like Robert or something like that? Or?
I don't know. I think Edge is like a professional wrestler. So the Edge.
as opposed to just Edge, which is a different
Right.
thing. Yes.
His real name is like Robert Periwinkle.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, so he brings up a great point. Fender has had record years in sales the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
Since
the pandemic, probably.
Since the pandemic, yeah. So the guitar boom is real.
Yeah.
It just reiterates why the guitar is scientifically proven to be the greatest musical instrument ever invented.
Something that's a little less hopeful though is I'm pretty sure the majority of those guitars were acoustic guitars.
Well, you know what? I don't know about you, but I mean, I've convinced a lot of my acoustic guitar playing students of the virtues of playing electric guitar, and they usually end up getting one.
The obvious virtues.
And loving it.
But that's really makes me sad. Like, dude, when I was a kid, I went acoustic. Acoustic guitar is what you play until you can get electric. You know what I mean? That's
mine is sitting right over there.
You know what I'm saying, though, right? Like,
totally.
You don't like reach for the acoustic. The acoustic guitar is something you play because you have to play it.
Well, and I think because back then you're a person's parents or guardians or whoever would be like they wanted to spend the least amount of money possible.
Exactly.
And so the electric, I mean, these days getting an electric guitar set up can be just the same investment as getting an acoustic guitar. So it's different.
Going after an acoustic guitar is like pining to take your cousin to the prom. You know what I mean? It's like no one wants to do that. You end up doing that because you have no other options. You know what I mean?
Hey, man, I played a mean classical guitar version of Youth Gone Wild when I was a kid.
I did an awesome classical guitar version of both Spanish Fly, which is ironically accurate, and Crazy Train.
Nice.
Which was awesome.
And you know what? I don't know about you, but my imagination just filled in the blanks of what it should sound like.
Totally, exactly.
I knew I was getting the notes. And my 11-year-old imagination just ran wild.
It attached to me like at the hip from the day one. In fact, when I didn't have a pick, I actually used the top of a soda can, like the little clip thing. I used that as a pick.
Or the bread clip.
Yeah, exactly. Or anything that you can get your hands on. I'll take a business card and really break it apart off and use that. It's like,
or like cut up your parents' credit cards.
Goes over like a lead balloon, but that's okay. But no, that's because back then going to the music store was a big deal. Like I gotta go drive down to the music store, and then I remember coming home from the music store with like guitar picks that I spent like $1.50 on. Was exciting to me. Like, I got picks. Dude, check this out.
Oh, they're all different colors.
Play. Oh my god! I was just so excited. I wish that for everybody who learns an instrument. I wish there was that kind of excitement. Just anything you play. Like I played an A5 chord and I have new picks, and I was happy as could be for like a week. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was like a week of happiness.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
I just wish that for anybody.
Oh, and the cool guy working at the music store that plays in a band, he talked to me.
Yeah, exactly. And I heard him play something that was really cool. I never seen one play that before.
And then he let me play that guitar.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Dude, that like the culture needs that.
Yeah, I agree. But excitement about stuff, you know what I mean? That isn't just I want to be an influencer and look at my thing I had at Chipotle on my Instagram. Check my Insta. Like I know exactly. It's just what that's because we're gentlemen of a certain age. That's what it is.
We are gentlemen of a certain age.
Yeah,
chip chiree.
Exactly. That's why we have that revulsion and just like I must run away from that.
We harken back to a few ifins past.
Yeah, like I know. Oh my god. It's so. Yeah, it's so everywhere. I hope it goes away. But anyway, that's
so. I don't know. This could be something for the comments section. Do you still like going places to see and do things?
Is there comment sections on the podcast?
Oh, are there?
I don't think there are.
Okay, well,
so people just just start.
So talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah, start a second personality that's sentient inside your head, kind of like Moon Knight, and then just have conversations with them about what you think about.
Just open up the notes on your device and just take some notes.
Yep.
And
maybe ask Siri what she thinks.
You're right. Ask.
No. Or Alexa. Good. Alexa, depending on how you swing, man.
But write down your comments into Chat GPT and then tell it to generate a comment thread as if it existed.
Exactly. And then we'll watch the horrors. It totally devolves into comments that are like racist and homophobic and stuff. Because that's the natural order of things.
Yes.
All right. I think that's a good place to wrap up. So, all right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to the Rock Guitar Confidential Podcast with Ryan and Scott. Wait, did I do both?
Oh, well, you did both, but you're Scott.
I'm Scott and he's Ryan.
Okay.
Thank you for listening. Please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast.
Minimum 12 stars.
Yeah, exactly. And then write really about a 3 or 4 page essay about how much this podcast means to you. I think that's what the other thing you should do for a review. The review should be at least 6,000 words. Something like that. Yeah.
Easily.
So any last thoughts?
Yes, double spaced.
Exactly. Double spaced. No, single space with like 10 fonts. Come on, man.
Oh, okay.
You got to get all that in there. It's like the warnings at the end of prescriptions. You know what I mean? It's got to be like that. So,
Okay, perfect.
all right, guys. Thanks so much. Peace.
Thanks so much. Peace.